Let's look first a little bit at the last few days, but I did want to mention in terms of weather news here over the last week and the last few days, probably the biggest event weather-wise. We look back, we had a line of thunderstorms go through late in the afternoon on Monday and into Monday evening, and well, I actually flew through that. At the time, it was no fun, but those thunderstorms were stronger than had been anticipated, and many of them, and this is especially true across western lower Michigan, a lot of them had hail associated with them. And this is an image from just north of Grand Rapids late that afternoon. And one of the hail wasn't particularly large. It was in some cases nickel sized or less. But the interesting thing was it hailed for a while, for well, tens of minutes, but certainly longer than typically is the case. And as a result, in many areas there was hail covering the ground and looked a little bit more like well, the late winter once again, but did cause some problems in some areas. So you may have seen that in your area, but that may have been the most noteworthy meteorological event here of the last week. In terms of the statistics, looking at mean temperatures for the past week on the left-hand side here, you can see that most of the state was pretty close to maybe a degree or two above normal, warmer than normal, especially across lower Michigan. One spot up in the UP you can see was a little cooler than normal. But I think the gist is not very far away from what climate tells us for this time of the year. Precip's more complicated on the right-hand side here as we look at that weather system move through late in the week into the beginning of the weekend. And as you can see from the colors on here, the greens and yellows are heavier precipitation, the blues are less. But we had two areas of widespread, significant precipitation, both across northern Michigan, the UP, and the northern lower, and then another area down along the Indiana and Ohio line across southern Michigan, where we saw widespread 1 inch plus events, and some areas picked up more than 2 inches. That's the areas there in yellow. But importantly, note that across much of central lower Michigan, the precip was much lighter. In many cases, we had well, some cases less than a quarter of an inch. So big differences depended on where you were and location, ranging from, again, very little, and it's still drier than normal, especially in that east central part of the state, to, well, at least temporarily somewhat damp. And that's especially true across the north. If we look at soil moisture here after this, and this actually is an image for Tuesday, the 10th, and now we're looking at the top 3 feet or soil, the soil profile. The yellows and browns here are areas, and these are soil moisture values expressed in percentiles. So the low percentiles mean it's drier than is climatologically well what we typically see at this time of year, and the greens are the opposite. They're so wetter than normal conditions. And we can see some of those dry areas across especially across central lower Michigan here, and especially in the Saginaw Valley and the Thumb. That's the area that, again, currently relative to climatology is dry. And opposite conditions that in the north with the greens, you can see above normal soil moisture there. So it's quite a variety of conditions across the state at the current time in terms of soil moisture. Our degree day accumulations, and I've got two different versions here. The images on the left, far left, and the far right are base 50 Fahrenheit degree day accumulations that go back to the beginning of March. So here we're thinking about our overwintering crops, especially our wheat crop, winter wheat crop, and any well, forages as well would be in the same boat where we need to go back earlier. And those accumulations range from about 250 units still in not very many in the far northern part of the state and the central upper peninsula to more than 600 across the south. And relative to normal, again, to our climatology on the far right-hand side here, the same pattern that we've seen the last couple of weeks is still there. And that is the blues here indicate deficits or a behind normal accumulation or again, relative to the long term, while in the southern part of lower Michigan and the western upper peninsula with the reds, a little bit of a surplus. So that's that pattern we've seen here for the last few weeks, and it still continues. Now, in the middle here, just to not to throw everyone off, but these are 8650 corn degree day units, and it assumes a planting date or beginning date of the 1st of May. So this one we'd be looking at our spring planted annual crops, especially again corn here. And this particular graphic shows the departure from normal. And what you can see here is at least back to the beginning of May that we're lagging a little behind. And Probably just a few days. It's not much, but you can see for much of central and southern lower Michigan, the deficits here somewhere on the order of 60, 70 units at this point in time. So a little bit of a deficit for our spring planted crops here in across much of the state. Well, this morning on the weather map, we have a frontal boundary across far southern parts of the state, and there's some scattered, and we'll call it scattered. It's probably a good word. Uh, Precipitation, just showers and light rain. Not a big deal. This is moving generally eastward, a little bit south of east, and it will be the case for the next few hours. But for most of the state here, it will be actually, especially for the northern part of the state, will be a fairly nice day, sunny and dry. On the right-hand side here, how much rain have we had? This is a 24-hour estimate. And again, this graphic goes through 6:30 this morning. But you can see so far with this weather system, and this is well, one of two weather systems that we're going to be dealing with in the next week here over the next couple days. But rainfall's been pretty limited to central areas. Actually, the area that was missed by the earlier rainfall. But so far, the totals have been really, really light. Generally, a tenth of an inch or less where rain has fallen. So not big rainfall totals, but and that's going to be the case for most of the day. We will actually see, besides northern parts of the state, the far south, we probably will see mostly dry conditions here today as well. Now, on the weather map, I mentioned a frontal boundary, and then you can see that here, this alternating red and blue line here. That frontal boundary is essentially just going to sit there. And there have been some changes in the forecast guidance, especially over the last couple days. And I think the real message here is that what was expected to be more significant in terms of precipitation has declined or decreased. And so the amount of rainfall, the aerial coverage of rainfall, all of those are now suggesting a much more scattered event with lighter rainfall totals than had earlier been forecast. And I'll show you the map for tomorrow morning. You can see the frontal boundary. Again, basically, it shifts a little bit to the south, but we should see today, as I mentioned, some rain early, and then the next chance really comes overnight tonight, tomorrow, and then on Saturday. And you can see that depicted here. And also note another trend that we're seeing here. I think it's important is that there probably will be greater coverage of rainfall in the northern part of the state over the next 48 hours in through Saturday. And so here's the map on Saturday. It looks very similar. So continuing chance for, again, scattered showers. There may be a few rumbles of thunder in there. That's possible. But again, it's looking much less widespread than had earlier been the case. Now, finally, this weather system moves off to the east and away from us by late Saturday, which sets up the stage for mostly a fair and dry Sunday and Monday. The next chance for any rainfall after Saturday probably coming on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. And that system, at least again in the most recent guidance, is looking a little bit more, it's looking a little wetter than this one. So when we collectively put everything in the gauge here for the next week, how much precipitation, you can see heavy totals especially across central and western upper Michigan, and much lighter totals as you go south and east. And this is a change in some of the guidance we've seen over the last day or two, but it's definitely drier than what we saw earlier. And back to some of Jamie's comments here, again, given where we are with sugar beets and disease risk, and again, what was looking like an extended period of very wet conditions in the last couple of days has really changed. And there are going to be areas here probably for the next several days that get little or no rainfall. And I certainly, even 24 hours ago, we would not have said that or talked about that. So it is looking distinctly drier than had been the case. Most of the precipitation, actually, to go a step further, that you see here, a lot of that is the system that's anticipated by the middle of next week. So again, how much over the next few days? It's probably limited to maybe a quarter of an inch or less in most areas where rain occurs. And there will be probably some areas now that miss most of the rainfall. Best chances for rain here with this first system will be on Friday and into Saturday. That's again, but still not widespread and not heavy. No heavy rain is expected. In terms of water demand, our potential evapotranspiration rates here for the upcoming week are fairly close to normal for the time of the year for the middle of June, and you can see the daily averages here ranging from about 1,400 of an inch near lakeshore areas and in the north to about 1,800 of an inch in the south. So again, a fairly typical week in terms of water demand. I I didn't talk a lot about the temperatures because there aren't a lot of interesting patterns to note, but I think it is important to know with we talked about the precip pattern here, that with that frontal boundary and with some northerly and northeasterly winds expected here in the weekend, there will be a big difference in temperatures north to south across the state, especially on Friday, tomorrow, and on Saturday. And during both of those days, we will see cooler conditions, relatively much cooler conditions across the north versus the south. And so while we're looking generally at highs in the 70s here for the next several days in a row across the south, there will be a couple days tomorrow and Saturday in the north. Some of them we won't get out of the 50s. It'll be upper 50s, low 60s. So distinctly cooler with for the season and below normal in the north. So big change from north to south. By the time we get to Sunday and Monday, looking generally at highs in the 70s to maybe 80. And early next week, it is looking like many areas will see highs back up at or a little bit above 80. Low temperatures ranging from the 40s here over the next mid to upper 40s generally in the north to the 50s in the south. And again, that's not very far away from what climatology would tell us for this time of the year. In the medium range, and we talked last week about lots of different solutions from the forecast guidance on the sort of the direction we were heading, and a lot of confidence. Well, this one's better. Both the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day outlooks are fairly consistent. We look at our jet stream pattern here for the 17th through the 21st. We can see a troughing feature out over western portions of North America, and then sort of a broad a weak ridge, or more westerly zone type flow across North America. But with that type of pattern, fairly high confidence in at least normal, if not warmer than normal mean temperatures. And this is true again, both for the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day time frame, taking us into the beginning of the last week of the month here. The other significant message, I think, in the guidance is frequent chances for precip. And again, this thinking back about Jamie's comments with disease risk, this is something, I guess, at least to keep in the back of your mind, that there will be a greater than normal number of weather systems with precip, or at least the threat of precipitation. So our totals here are likely probably to be above normal over the next week or two. And that's obviously has impacts in terms of disease risk, but that's the direction, and the confidence in that, I think, is relatively high. That's where we will end up over the next couple weeks. So summarizing here, once again, a fairly nice day across many parts of the state with some scattered showers possible in central sections, better chance for rainfall tomorrow and Saturday, but again, as was noted, it's much less than what had been anticipated earlier, and there will be rainfall, but not again, just not the extent that we thought. And then dry conditions Sunday and Monday. Next chance for precip then after that by the middle of next week, and temperatures pretty close to the normals here for the next several days, except a little cooler in the north.